Welcome to Think Wedding Business, the podcast where we interview leading wedding entrepreneurs and find out what makes them a success in the industry. With me, Howard Wing.
And me, Adam Wing. Whether you're a florist or a photographer, a cake maker, videographer, new to the industry, or just looking for some inspiration, then this is the place to be.
So without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're in for an incredible night.
Joined today by Ellie Sax. Everybody knows Ellie Sax. You like the Sax brand, awesome vehicles.
And Harry's here too,
Yeah.
Mr. Sax.
We've developed and we constantly develop, don't we? And we constantly try to develop. It helps that we're married and we've learnt to be able to give each other pretty brutal feedback. I shouldn't say this really, but we still do some work for free or less than our fee because we're going to get divorced.
We're only getting warmed up.
Getting to a level where I'm getting quite brutal now, so I'm just going to...
Yeah, you settle down.
Well, welcome to the Think Wedding Business podcast. It's a very special one, this one, because it's our very first. So we're quite excited, but even more excited the fact we've got Ellie Sax with us today. And we also have Harry from Laser Boy Wonder fame sat to her right. So in this episode, Ellie's going to share her insights and her expertise in the wedding industry. She's going to give us some nuggets, hopefully, that you guys are able to take away and implement in your business. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. We're pretty excited.
So we've got a list of questions, but like I said, it's going to be wedding business focused, and we know you perform in corporate gigs and stage shows and everything across the board, but we're going to try and narrow down to the wedding industry because you've been super successful.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, in a fairly short space of time as well, haven't you? So I met you, remember that wedding, was it 6 years ago?
Yeah.
And I think you were just getting into weddings then, were you?
I think so, yeah. I think that was one of my first
Can I
weddings.
interject?
You can.
That wedding, the one in Southport, that was
Yeah.
my first ever wedding.
Yeah.
That's the
It was
first
my
time that we
first
met.
wedding.
Was it your first wedding? I
Yeah.
knew you were new to the wedding world.
Yeah.
But that was my first ever gig as well.
There we go.
And you know, just to see how you've grown in that short space of time, it's just been amazing. You're everywhere. Everybody knows Ellie Sax. You like the Sax brand. Along with your awesome vehicles, cut to a shot of Ellie's vehicles.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. And Harry's here too.
But I just said about Harry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mr. Sax.
Mr. Sax, Harry Sax is here, ready for his first gig one day as well.
But obviously, you guys and like your background in music and saxophone, if you can like just touch on that. But how did you get into specifically the wedding industry? Because obviously you do commercial and events and all the other stuff that you do, Ibiza. But how did you go? How did you start in weddings? And was it a conscious decision, or did it just kind of happen? Like, tell us a bit about
I
the
feel
start
like
of
it
that.
was definitely a conscious decision. We both studied classical music. I did classical saxophone. Harry did like orchestral percussion. We met at music college. And then we did a lot of kind of travelling and duo stuff. And we always liked kind of the house music and dance music, which is what we kind of specialise in now. And then when we came back from doing that and came back to the UK, we thought, okay, well, how do we want to market it and what do we want to be doing? And we've always kind of wanted to do weddings, haven't we? Because it's really nice to be a part of somebody's day. And it's always a really happy occasion. You know, it's lovely to celebrate them, basically. So we kind of went in. I think it's kind of a kind of backwards way of a saxophone player getting into weddings, because most saxophone players do the other gigs first, do bars and clubs, and then end up doing weddings. Whereas we went in with weddings first, really, and then came out doing and kind of via weddings built our brand, and then went into doing festivals and events.
We always made sure, I think in everything that we've done, we've almost planned 2 steps ahead. So when we came out of music college, we came out already having a tour that we were working on, sort of like a theatre tour that we were musicianing on, and then we went and worked for Disney Cruise Line. But when we were working for Disney Cruise Line, we had our next gigs that we were getting lined up, and these were long-term contracts of like 3 to 6 months. And then our last sort of like 6 months of doing stuff, we were like, right, when we go back, we want to spend more time in the UK, so we want to be doing weddings. So all the stuff that we needed to do weddings, we then generated while we were out in Italy working on that contract. So we knew that when we came back, or we were taking bookings then for weddings, like we hadn't done a wedding before, but we'd sort of generated the body of work that we needed to sort of show why we should be doing weddings while we were away. So that when we came back, we had that stuff ready to go. And yeah, it was the same while we were then doing weddings. That allowed us the sort of monetary freedom to be able to look at, right, okay, we want to focus on making music, doing this, doing other things, like you say, the cars, all that type of stuff. The weddings gave us the freedom to be able to do that, whereas if we'd come solely from bar and club work, the pay in that world is dreadful. So you wouldn't be able to...
That's one of the benefits with weddings, isn't it? They're always going to be there. And there's different levels, isn't there? If you get into the right level, the high-end level, you've got the right clients, they know your worth, and they'll pay for it.
Yeah.
You know, without a doubt.
And, you know, it's nice, not just monetarily wise. I don't think that's a word.
Monetary.
Not just from a monetary value. It's nice to do a proportion of weddings because it's a nice type of work as well.
Yeah.
Like, we really enjoy them. So it's not just, you know, they pay better, but it also balances out the other stuff. Because it keeps it feeling very nice, and I feel like we can keep ourselves fresh from doing the other work and current, you know, because clubs and bars push you to be current all the time, but also the weddings then mean that you can then enjoy it, and you can basically kind of customize your set and your business to work for weddings as well, which is really fun.
It's just a happy day, and it's just a great experience. You know, for me, I sacked off all the corporate work that I was doing and just went, I just love weddings the most because it's such a great, happy day.
Yeah.
You know, it really is.
And speaking of someone who's worked with yourself and you guys for so many years, the stuff that you all bring to the wedding day in turn makes it even better, and everyone has a great time because of what you do and what you do. And so, like, it's even more infectious and enjoyable because everyone's enjoying themselves even more, which feeds up on us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
Mainly talking about these guys.
It's because you've teed us up, Adam. From Bridal Pack, Adam's there, be like, you wait till Howard and Ellie Sax get here, and by the time we do get there, it's like, boom, we don't even have to do anything now. Adam's already made us. Like,
Sometimes turn up in the morning because I get to see that entire day.
Yeah.
And be with them from the very start. And in the morning, they're like, oh, I can't wait for later. We've got Ellie, we've got Howard, we've got, you know. And it is. Everyone then goes, some of the bridesmaids are like, oh, who's, and like, well, I won't tell you too much, I'll tell you. And everyone gets excited.
Like you were saying about keeping it fresh, it's a completely different vibe. So, like, if we go and let's say we're playing at a festival with a bigger lineup, maybe only like 10% of people at a festival know us before we get there. So that's a really different sort of set that I would play for Ellie than when you're going and doing a wedding or you're going and doing a gig where maybe like 70-80% of the audience already know us. It keeps it interesting for me DJing, because obviously I'm not really in the spotlight at the front as much as Ellie is. So it's a really sort of, that's interesting for me to be thinking, right, what set am I going to play that, number one, shows Ellie off in the best light, but if it's somewhere where no one knows us, what is going to win those people round and get them on side? Whereas in a wedding, 9 times out of 10, you don't have to win them round because they're already there to have a good time.
That's the opposite of me.
Is it?
Yeah, because nobody knows me generally.
Yeah.
I might have a few guests in at the weddings, but that's becomes the challenge for me.
Yeah, how are you going to get people
start
on
people
board?
like, who's this guy? You know.
Yeah.
I've got to win.
Cheesy
them
wedding
round.
singer, sort of
Yeah.
we've seen this before. No, but that's the perception that some people...
At the start,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people
At the
do
start,
say
that's
that,
what I
and they
mean.
think that, and then it's like, it's
Interesting
a bit different.
that you identified weddings as, you know, for the money and for the enjoyment of it, and used that to then generate all your other stuff. And then, and obviously now you do a lot of events all over the world,
Yeah.
but you still, and that kind of feeds back into your weddings and helps your sets, I would imagine.
Yeah, hugely.
And you obviously still do a lot of that, and it's all at this point, I'm guessing, feeding into each other.
Yeah, it all feeds back in. It's like, this is going to sound really cheesy.
But the more you've built your brand on that corporate world, the more people want you for weddings, because
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, Ellie Sax, I saw her in Ibiza, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. And it means that they're getting like an authentic thing. They're not getting, this is going to sound, I don't know if this sounds really arrogant, so you can cut this out if it does, but you're not getting like a copy of something in Ibiza. You're getting like Ibiza brought
In a more personal experience,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's an authentic thing as opposed to something that's not come from that. It has come from like that world of music,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
bringing it to your wedding
And
to
that's
show
why
your
you can,
guests.
you can do that at a wedding. That's why it's so special. and so
because it's the
nice.
bride and groom's whole, like, if they've been to Ibiza or they've been to like festivals and stuff and they want to bring that vibe, their guests are going to be on board with that if they're on board with that, like 100%. So they're selling it just as much as we are.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. You saying it all works together. This is why it's important to always be busy, always be showing yourself, and people always talk about it, and that's how the word of mouth spreads.
Yeah.
So how's, like, fast forward to like now, this year, generally, what's a wedding year look like? I know you do a lot of other stuff, but how many events? weddings?
We don't even really count, do we? But we've probably, it's really bad.
I bet it's a lot more than us.
With weddings, probably 2 to 3 weddings a week from probably end of April.
Always yourselves? I know you have other artists.
Yeah, that's always ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we run our other business kind of separately, like I refer to it. But yeah, that will be just us. We'll be doing maybe 2 to 3 a week from early May until middle of October. And then it slows down to maybe 1 or 2 a week. Brilliant. And then we've got the other events around that. Yeah.
Brilliant. But the reason I asked that, because this year I've noticed, and I don't know if you've seen this, on Facebook, a lot of groups that I'm in, with like the current climate of the UK, a lot of people are like, oh, bookings are down, inquiries are higher, but everyone's less willing to commit and pay. And there seems to be a lot of chat about whether people are willing to part with the money.
The cost of living crisis and things,
have you noticed anything like that? Because it seems to be a real talking point for wedding suppliers this year.
I think one of the things that kind of makes it feel a lot like that as well is having had 2022 just finished, which was a year where we had essentially 3 years worth of events in one summer, because it was the first year we had a full post-COVID summer.
It was crazy, wasn't it?
2023 is not, well, I say it's not going to be as busy as 2022. I think it is now, starting to like get to that stage. But I think when we learned about the cost of living crisis, we sat down and we made a conscious decision to market ourselves to the high-end weddings where it's not affected what they're willing to spend quite as much. So we sat down and we kind of thought, right, where are we going to price ourselves, and how are we going to plan for the cost of living crisis? Because we are an addition to a wedding. You know, you can have a DJ for a night and you've covered your evening, whereas we're kind of selling that you want something extra for your evening. So that's how we approached it, didn't we? We thought, right, well, this was the stage in our kind of career and business anyway where we were thinking of doing that, and then this has kind of pushed us into thinking, right, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to go higher, price higher. And then we have been confirming.
Yeah, I mean, confirmations are going steadily. We didn't see, so normally I see a really big January rush where everyone sort of got engaged at New Year, and we didn't really see like loads of inquiries come in January and then confirm. I feel that lots of people have been waiting that little bit longer, and we've been getting quite a few sort of bookings that are maybe for a wedding in 3 months or 4 months time, which is something we haven't seen before. People seem to be waiting till the last minute to think, all right, we've got a chunk of money that's come in, let's do that. Our December was quite quiet. That was a shock. Like we were nowhere near as busy as last year in December, just in terms of Christmas parties and weddings and everything. But then our January, in terms of events, was busier than the other years.
Yeah.
And that ties in because people are having the Christmas parties after Christmas because it's cheaper in January.
Yeah, exactly.
This is such an important point. I think we need to be really clear for our listeners on your answer about what you've specifically done to kind of counteract the fact that we are in this sort of crisis at the minute. And you were saying you've just gone more for the higher end.
Yeah.
You look for those real high end clients. And what does that entail? Does that different venues? Or how do you target those high end clients? What's your process?
So partly it's to do with the marketing we've been putting out has been more around Ellie Sax as an artist. More like if you're booking Ellie Sax, it's not that you've inquired for a sax player. You are booking Ellie Sax. You've inquired for me, and not just to have a DJ and a sax player, because I'm priced higher than the standard DJ sax package. So that was one of the things, to consciously change our marketing towards it.
I think if you look at any of our social media over the past year, you'll be hard pushed to find much wedding content on socials, especially in sort of grid posts on Instagram or things go on Facebook. We'll do stories from the weddings, but it's more sort of a lot of our inquiries start with, does Ellie do weddings?
Yeah.
As opposed to, we want to book Ellie for this wedding, which I think that's been a conscious decision to make it feel that way.
It felt quite risky.
Yeah,
we did
definitely.
We were like, oh my God.
But it then gives a feeling to our clients of maybe a bit more exclusivity.
Yeah, something a bit more special, a bit more exclusive.
They've been willing to do my wedding even though they're not wedding-y people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not sort of it's not a snobby thing around that at all. It's not like, we don't want to do weddings. It's just, we saw the way the market was going in terms of cost of living and what people were willing to pay for stuff. And we just were like, right, well, if we market it that way, it is more of a, it's hard to know how to put this, but when it's your wedding, it's a life experience moment, isn't it? Like, people are willing to spend money on it. Sure, and we sort of went down the route of thinking, right, well, how can we enhance that, and how can we make it worth people wanting to book Ellie Sax? And that might be for some people saying, well, we've got Ellie Sax. Like, have you seen her Instagram? Like, how have we managed to get this? And that's the sort of like aspirational social media stuff that we put out there.
It's the personal branding side of it. And we talk about this quite a lot in our course, don't we, with some of our students, that people are going to book the person rather than the service.
Yeah.
And they'll stretch to it and they'll pay a bit more for it. You know, who you booking as sax and DJ? No, we've got Ellie and Lazy Boy Wonder.
It's not just a sax
player. Or
it's
we've got a guy's going to sing songs in the corner, but we've got Howard Wing. So pushing that personal brand always, it's that extra bit of special, isn't it? And you are, because you do offer something different than a normal sax player.
And I think we have also been really conscious of making sure that as we've kind of upped our prices, we always put back into our business a lot. Like, a lot of our investment with money and time is back into our business.
The production of your show, when you turn up, it's different level. And
so we have upped our kind of...
You can see why you charge more. I can see it. And so I imagine couples will look like a standard DJ and sax.
Yeah.
You know, great.
Yeah.
But your production and set is so much higher. You can see where the extra money's gone.
Yeah.
So you've got to be consistently quality, haven't you? Without a doubt.
We put in a really high quality sound system that can give you club level.
Yeah, because that's what we want to work with. If we want to go out and gig, like with our DJ setup, I don't DJ on a laptop, because I think DJing on a laptop, there's a barrier between you and the people in front of you. If you've got a screen in front of you, so I always be like, right, when I DJ in the clubs, you've got a full setup of CDJs. You've got the decks in front of you and they're on display. So we've made a real conscious effort to be able to let people see what we're doing. So if you want to come round and see the decks and see me mixing and DJing, you can see that I'm not just there with a laptop. And that's all part of the sort of, again, process we thought, right, what is going to bring people and get people involved with it? If they can see it, they can hear it.
I think the lesson there is, personal brand massive, and just be dead good at what you do and be a bit different as well at the same time.
It's not
Don't
just
be scared to lean into that.
Personal branding though. It's getting your personal brand to a level like you've done where you're a real aspirational, like it's a stretch for couples to go. Like, it's interesting that the less you show your weddings, the more people want to book you for a wedding, because it's almost like this person does, residences in Ibiza.
Yeah.
I can't believe that they're going to be willing to do my wedding. Yeah. And like,
I mean, we generally
that makes you more desirable.
That people want to book that in. Like, sometimes we're like, really, are you sure? Like, say when we do offer a few different packages, and one of them is just where we come for a little amount of time in the evening, don't we? If you've already got a DJ, we will come and literally do an hour and a half at your wedding as like a little thing. Come in and then go. And sometimes I don't feel, if it was me, I'd be like, I'm not getting enough value for money out of this, so I won't book it. Then when people do, I'm like, this is amazing, guys. Like, thank you so much for booking this, because it means as much to us as it does. Like, that's why we try and give back, because we're like, well, you're allowing us to do these things. So
I think you're making the client feel special there, aren't you? I remember a guy years ago, I'm not going to mention names, but he would always say he never does weddings. But all his work was weddings. Virtually all of his work was weddings. I don't really do weddings, but for you, I make this, and it's like, oh God, really, thank you. But you're making your potential client feel really special. They're going to get you. So I love that. It's brilliant.
Does the approach change when you like how you market weddings as opposed to how you market everything else, or does it all?
I don't think we have really differentiated that much, have we? I think we've just marketed as we've kind of wanted our career to, the direction we wanted our career to go in.
We've always decided, right, if we want to do more of a certain thing, or we've sort of have our like yearly AGM for Ellie Sax, where we work out what's going to happen next year, and then we don't make a content plan. We've never made like a sort of social media, what we're going to do over the month. We're just sort of like, if things come up and opportunities come up, like when it snowed the other week, we were immediately like, right, let's go and do some content that leans into what our goals are for this year. And that just not. And other years when we've done that, we might have done slightly different things. But this year when we're doing it, we know what we want to be sort of pushing towards, and our marketing is more of pushing Ellie Sax as a brand, not in any particular direction to be like, let's push towards weddings or let's push towards festivals.
I see.
It's just, this is what Ellie Sax is
As long as the
as a
brand's
brand.
strong, you're going to get all the types of work, aren't you?
I also
Yeah.
feel like if you put out what you want yourself to be, you get that work. So if we're putting out the music that we enjoy playing and we enjoy making, then when a couple books us, they're booking us and they'll like that music, and you're not changing what you do a massive amount. You obviously adapt to each couple, but then you know that wedding is going to be,
It's going back to that authenticity, isn't it?
it's basically you can stay authentic to yourself but also make money from it. And I actually think you're more successful when you are doing what you enjoy, and I think people, especially with performing, they can tell if you're not in it. They can, like, that's what we get a lot of people saying, oh, you really love your job, I can tell. And I do, but you forget that there are definitely people who stand up there and hate it.
But when you're left to do what you do best, and couples buy into that, and you're attracting, subconsciously or otherwise, you're attracting the people that obviously align with you.
Enjoy it,
and then you can just do your thing, and it
and it
makes
enhances
performing-
their day as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a nice place to be. That
It's
because
infectious,
you
though,
can
isn't
get
it?
to a
The whole
point
crowd buzz off that.
where you can target a certain type of couple, and generally book the kind of people that you want to work for. can't you?
Yeah.
100%. Because I can, like, when I have chats with brides and grooms about what sort of music they want, good save.
Nice.
Yeah, when I have chats with brides and grooms about where they want to go musically in their night, it's very rare that I will say, what music do you want to hear, what are your requests? I'm straight down the route of, where did you go to uni? What clubs did you go to? What are you putting on the radio? Like, all of that. Did you get any, like, Now albums, or did you get, like, a Head Candy album, or did you get this? Because for me, that gives me a much better picture of the couple than them saying, yeah, I want these requests because Nana Jean likes this one and my friends like this. Because they're trying to please their guests. And I'm like, I know how to please your guests because I've worked with rooms of people before.
Yeah.
So tell me what you are as people, and then I'll make sure we
Love that.
go down that line, as opposed to because almost like I'm asking them to do my job by saying, what requests have you got? What genres do you want to hear? I was like, that's my job to find out
Such a
what
better
these
way to
people
go
want.
about it. And it's ultra personal as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Just 100% Coldplay for me, please.
No problem.
What?
Which
We're
I know
going
you'd
to
be, I know
a
you'd be
question
down
now.
with.
I'm going to try and drag
Just
Chris
because
along.
I do want to go into that one
Yeah,
next.
Chris is good.
So on this podcast, we're going to get different people who got a certain technique or a certain expertise in their style of marketing. What have you got? One real marketing thing that you do that sort of sets you apart? That's kind of your special power.
So I think Harry will probably be able to be more
I'll be
articulate
intrigued to
with
see
this. But
if you have the same idea that
so
I do.
I think,
Answer separately, I like this.
yeah,
It's like Mr. and Mrs.
we're going to get divorced. No, not really.
Also available for divorces.
You don't go that far, do you?
That's going on the outtake, the edited trailer thing.
Extra service.
And
Harry doesn't know about.
Breaking news.
I think we always, I don't know if this is a specific marketing thing. Obviously, we try and keep a really strong brand, and that goes across, like, the hat. I always wear a hat. That's like part of the branding. You turn up, people know who you are because you got your hat on. I always wear like Ibiza style clothes, obviously wedding appropriate.
I've seen the hat. Is the hat? I've seen it somewhere.
Yeah, it's in the next to the piano.
I forgot to bring it. Carry on.
Yes. And we obviously we've got the cars, like we're really into our cars, and this goes back to being authentic as well. Like, we love our cars, so we bought the cars we want to buy, and then we wrapped them in crazy colours, but the Ellie Sax colours to like continue the branding out. But I'd say for me, I think it's we always, and we made this conscious decision right from the start, always stay really positive in anything we put out online, whether it's personal, whether it's to do with the brand, because I think, again, it's the same thing as what you put out into the world, you get back.
Absolutely.
So that's what my thing's always been. Just be really positive, because then you get positivity. But I think Harry's gonna. What are you going to say?
You were really close
You said
to what
you were
I
going to
thought.
say cars.
No, I wasn't going to say cars.
Dang it.
I think you're right with positivity.
Don't have to get divorced. Yay.
No, hooray! I think So let's say we're getting some content done, or we're at a wedding or at a gig, and the photographer or the videographer comes up to me and say, what shots do you want? And the first thing I say to them is, I don't mind if in the photo or something Ellie's not in focus or she's not the main subject of the photo, but I want you to capture the emotion of the people that are watching this or are the guests at the wedding, because that in our marketing is what sells the higher price, because you're basically showing a couple, this is the emotions you're going to experience. Yes, and I can sell emotion all day long, but I find it really hard to sell a product. But if you're like, look at this picture of all of these people or all of these guests reacting to something that Ellie's doing with the bride, or the bride and groom are in the middle of the dance floor and Ellie surprises them in the first dance, look at the reaction of all those people. Yeah. And that's why it's worth the money. That's probably what I think.
That is so perfect. People are buying. People look at that wedding and go, I want our wedding to be like that. Look, everyone's having a great time.
Yeah.
They're not. They know you're a part of. You're creating it, but that's what brings them to it.
That is the lesson in there. What you said is that you sell. It's so easy, so much easier to sell an experience than it is to sell your product.
Yeah. Especially when money is tighter, because you will remember that experience, and you're seeing people who've had that experience and the reaction they've got. And because the media or the content we're putting out there is already on Ellie's social media, so I don't need every picture or every post to feature Ellie, because if they're seeing it, they're already on Ellie's social media, so they sort of know that she's going to be involved in some way. Which is why I think wedding photographers have a really not easy time, but a lot of a much easier time on their social media than say someone like a caterer, because they're just capturing people's emotions in the photos, and if they're good at capturing emotions, you're ready made for social media because you've got all that. Whereas a caterer,
what you're doing anyway.
It's harder to sort of like show someone having some cake and been like, you know what I mean? It's a harder one to do.
I remember when I changed my website years ago. My original website was all about me. I'm stood pictures of me holding the mic and did that. And I remember there's a point I was like, no, they're not buying me. They are, and they're not at the same time. I changed every single image on the website was people up, dancing, smiling, showing the energy in the room and that experience, rather than it. So many people get this wrong. We say this with photographers.
It's one of the first things that you taught me. You're not like, this is me and these are my films and this is what I make and this is my creative vision. It's my marketing is very much on the day you'll get an amazing video from your day in a way that you won't even feel like you're being videoed the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the experience on the day for them to just relax and enjoy it. And know it's taken care of to a hopefully good standard. But it's how they feel on the day. It's not like
and that's one thing I will say. Like because we had Adam filming our day, and so many people.
I was hoping that would come up.
So many people said did you have a videographer? We didn't notice him, and that was just because you just blended in. You weren't in everyone's faces, but you captured the emotion of that day incredibly, and the video was beautiful. I still watch it all the time and I cry pretty much every time.
Well, you're selling the sizzle, not the steak,
Yeah, exactly.
Without a doubt.
Exactly the same. But I think that's exactly like your answer was really, really similar to what I was thinking, because again, like all the things with the cars and everything like that, it goes back to that authenticity of this is who we are, and people have a way to follow that. Like when Ellie does a video with the cars or doing something in the cars, that is selling the emotion that Ellie's having at that moment. We went and did a car control day where Ellie was messing around in a caterum, doing drifts, donuts, all sorts of stuff. And Ellie isn't trying to put on a persona to do that. Like, she is generally having the time of her life in that car. But at that moment, there's no front. That is just her.
And it's like when you get captured at a wedding, everybody's enjoying themselves.
Exactly.
Fun. But then people do connect it, so they realise the sizzle has been created by the steak. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the person that's done all that.
Exactly.
They see that atmosphere, that dance floor, and they go, I want that. And
you're the person who's going to get
that's been created by Ellie, so I'll get in touch with you.
Because fundamentally, like, the reason we're there is to make other people happy or feel things, and we want to do that as well. That's why we're there, and that if they can love that, then.
But to that point, and to your side of that answer, having worked with you so many times and knowing you as a friend, You are incredibly positive and infectious
Thank you.
and joyful, and your performance you're much bouncier and happy. You look like you're enjoying it more than anyone else I've ever worked with.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that because I do really enjoy it. Like, I really love
And it
our
is
job.
so
You mean
infectious.
sex players, yeah, not just entertainment in general.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just sex players.
So much better than having just a wedding singer, you know.
You work hand in hand so well. Of
course you do.
Set the
Of course
room
you
up
do.
ready for it. That's where the sizzle comes from.
Yeah.
I would say this is coming from like a business side as well, and this is going out to wedding suppliers. You know, it's not always positive. Like we are pretty positive people. I think, you know, we try to be really positive and constantly put positivity out. But it's not an always positive job.
Let's be real about it. Like
It's a lot of
sometimes you've got to
work.
work harder to make it
Oh yeah.
what you want, what they want it to be, and what they're expecting
Yeah.
than other times.
Yeah, and I think part of the thing of, you know, if you'd say like, why have we found kind of the success level that we found so far? A lot of it is because we're absolute workaholics. Like, we work constantly, don't we? And even when we're sat at home on the sofa, you know, we'll be messaging and doing stuff, and because we love our job, it helps, you know. But we are also massive workaholics, and we work hours and hours.
That's your
and
other
hours.
superpower, like we're talking about, is that
The work ethic.
the work ethic that you guys have got, and it just
I think-
stands a mile above.
I think it's easy to see from just how active you are on social media, and but I know behind the scenes like how crazy
Yeah.
you
Adam's
are.
trying to justify why I never replied to him. Because he's like, oh, Harry must be busy.
Well, I hope that's the case, because you never, I never hear back from you for days, and I'm like, oh, they're probably on the other side of the world. Like, I know you drive 24 hours to get to Europe, and
All sorts of stuff.
But you
That's the
also-
fun. Like,
yeah.
that, we love it. Like,
But you
that's-
live in it,
that's-
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And you sacrifice loads. You sacrifice a lot of like not relationships with your friends, because I think a lot of our friends are in the wedding industry as well, or are musicians, so they understand. But
Yeah.
you have to have friends who understand the fact that they probably won't hear from you for a couple of weeks when you're just a bit too like overwhelmed with your work life, that you just don't have the capacity to almost be a friend. And then you come back out of it and you can be a friend again. And with you miss family, you know, family things because they happen at weekends, you work weekends. But it kind of, I don't begrudge any of that because I love what I do and I'm really appreciative of my job, but it's definitely there, you know.
yeah, it's not for
Well,
everyone.
the
is it?
remedy though is
No.
really just stop, no friends.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the rewards
Easy.
outweigh the negatives,
Oh yeah,
because you
Oh, yeah.
you miss out on things. It's unsociable.
Yeah.
It's weekends, but and you know it's not going to be for everyone. But I think the life that you get from it,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
if you enjoy it, far
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I also think having that positive attitude is really good. And you were saying it's not always amazing, it's not always great, but you still put on that positive persona
Yeah.
and you go into it.
You've still got
Yeah.
to do justice by your couple who have paid the same
Exactly.
as everyone else,
Yeah.
and they're expecting the
Yeah.
same sort of.
We've often said this, especially the more we've done bigger events. So less so the wedding side, but more so sort of like the festival side of it or the bigger gigs. It doesn't matter what you've got going on in your personal life. These people who are in front of you, like, you've got to take them somewhere. There's a reason that they've paid money to come and see you. So you have to put anything that you're thinking about aside, and you are going to give them the best night that you can
Which-
possibly give
Yeah.
them.
It's hard sometimes, isn't it?
It is
Yeah.
hard. It is hard. You've definitely got to be able to.
You're going to put
not
all that
every-
stuff aside.
Yeah.
I'm doing this.
We take that
That's
for
it.
granted because I know we all do that.
Yeah.
Without even thinking about it,
Yeah.
like you do. You just
Yeah.
put it aside
Yeah.
and you do the job. But not everyone
Can.
does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
Or can.
You definitely, I think we've
And I
definitely
think
trained
that's what
ourselves
makes you
into it as well.
a really good supplier, and why you've probably had
Thanks.
so much success. Because, like, you know, I've worked with some suppliers that bring it all into that
you
environment
can't.
and are miserable, and it
Yeah.
you just can't.
No,
Can you?
no,
No.
no.
I've seen it, and we've all seen it in the industry over this last, whatever, 6, 7, 8 years, this influx of sax players and DJs.
Yeah.
So what gives you your competitive edge?
Especially the Ibiza sax thing, because that's like really
Huge
popular these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got to keep that level above. What gives you that competitive edge, you think, over your competition?
I think number one was having a strong brand almost before it started to become very popular. That
Yeah.
has massively benefited us, you know, can't shy away from that.
Yeah.
I also think I was, we both studied. We have music degrees. We both studied really intensely, and we did it in such an intense place. Music college is like very intense. You have to practice, 2-3 hours a day consistently, and the standard of musicians around you is absurdly high. So you're pushing yourself, and I think it almost trains you into a mindset where you are constantly the most critical of yourself. You're your biggest critic, so you have to develop. And I think as like musicians and sax players and DJs, we've developed, and we constantly develop, don't we? And we constantly try to develop. It helps that we're married and we've learned to be able to give each other pretty brutal feedback.
Do you think that being married and doing it as a couple gives you an edge? I was going to say, does it help my ender? But I don't want to.
I don't know if it gives.
I know you make it a real success, but does it give you an edge over someone doing it on their own? Maybe.
I think it allows us to work at the pace we work at and be the support network for each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a competitive edge, because if you're trying to do the level of weddings and the higher end weddings as often as we do, if you haven't got someone who's constantly with you going through the same stuff, then you're going to burn out, because it is a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah, well, if your partner's a teacher or something
if
that
they're
works
working
Monday
a 9
to
to
Friday,
5 and you're working Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be very hard to do that. Whereas, I think it does benefit us. Like if we come away from a gig, or we've been doing something that is hard for us, we can have the drive home, and we can sort of almost vent about that and share it with each other.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot, because that allows us to keep a level of work going through it.
Musically as well, it's because our communication, we're constantly communicating with life, work, music as well.
Yeah.
And I think we've worked together for so long musically and we know each other so well that we can read each other quite well. So I can communicate an entire sentence with Harry with one look, and he knows what I mean, while I've got a saxophone in my mouth, and he can do the same to me. And also I can hear his the musical hints he gives. I can pick up on that I wouldn't be able to pick up on as much with another DJ, because I don't understand the way they work as much. So it makes it really nice and organic, doesn't it? So we don't feel like a lot of people always message us and say, can you send us your set list? And I'm like, we don't have a set list. We kind of read. Harry reads it, and I kind of listen to him. And
it's going to change to what mood Ellie's in today, what guests are in front of us. Like it's going to be completely different. But going back to working together musically, we were saying it was 6 or 7 years ago when we probably did our first wedding. Yeah. But before that, you're sort of I grew up in a musical family. I've been playing instruments since I was age 3. And then when we've been working together, that was probably since we were 18, 19 at music college. And we have done so many different forms of music together. Like classical music, we've performed together. We've done jazz piano and jazz saxophone. We've sung together. And I think the steepest curve in my sort of musical learning was when we left music college and went to work for Disney.
Oh yeah.
Because suddenly you've gone for an environment where it's very academic, the music you're making, and then suddenly we've been put in front of a cruise ship full of Americans, and they're like, go, entertain them. And then you're like, oh, I know nothing.
Yeah.
I've got to go back to basics and learn this. So you're taking all of that wealth of knowledge that we've accumulated for sort of 7 or 8 years before we even contemplated doing weddings and doing house music and dance music.
Yeah.
And then you're putting that into what we do now. So again, going back to the husband and wife thing, it's just, we just know what the other person's going to do. We know if Ellie needs a break. I know if her lip's starting to go when she's playing. I can play a few tracks that I know will give her a break, but the crowd will interact with more. Yeah. I could play some sing-alongs so that Ellie can get everyone. We know how to
instead of blowing along.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really bad as well though, because we have this little microphone that means we get better audio quality for our videos. But now it also clips on so you can hear me singing along, which is really bad. Because most people can't hear. But then when you've got a video now, and they're
listening back to you.
But I think that brings the competitive edge. You can't. We touched earlier on authenticity, and I don't want to blow smoke up Ellie's ass, but there's no one else who's doing that range of work. So it's not like you're doing weddings and you occasionally get booked to do this here and you occasionally do that. It's like, this is our life.
Yeah.
There is nothing that you don't see. So
That's the edge. It's knowing the craft. It's all that experience behind you.
Yeah.
And you can employ that anywhere, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard as well because a lot of people in the wedding industry are creatives. You know, that's where you essentially come to delivering something for a wedding. You could be a videographer, a photographer, a singer, musician, a caterer. It's all creative work, but then you've got to then team that up with business. But we've always come to our business approach as from the creative side. If our product's good enough, then we can try and sell it, So it's been a constant development of the product, really, of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's really hard selling yourself as well, because it's literally like, hey, look at me, I'm great, which you don't always feel.
Yeah, but
that's why we
when
talk
it
about-
comes back to
we
you're
talk
not selling
about Ellie
yourself, you're
Sax.
selling the experience.
Yeah.
But we talk about Ellie Sax as a thing. Like, I know this is Ellie Sax, but to us, Ellie Sax is a thing. So we'll be like, we're going to go
Great.
film some Ellie Sax content today. We're going to go and do this. Because,
Yeah.
again, working together when we were doing cruise ship stuff, you have to get extremely good at basically living in a 3 metre by 3 metre square.
I've been down. I've seen that. I've seen the accommodation.
Bunk beds for 6 months. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be very good at just knowing what the other person is feeling, going through
Yeah,
emotionally, and
communicate,
everything
yeah.
like that. If you can do that and get through that, it means that you've got a good basis in our relationship to be able. But we had to make a conscious effort to not come off stage. And if I was like, "Oh, Ellie, you could have done that better,"
Yeah.
or "We could have done this better," that was a very conscious thing for us to be like, "We're not going to go down that route," because that's a personal thing.
Yeah. Because even though we can communicate and we give feedback to each other, and we're pretty harsh with our feedback quite a lot of the time, it's the timing of doing it. Once you've come off stage, your adrenaline's pumping, you're really high, like, emotional state. So if then you've just come off and you're feeling like really emotionally on the edge, and then Harry's like, that note was shit, then I'll be like, oh, sorry, I can't swear probably. That note was bad. Cut it. Then I'm like, bah, 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 because I'm feeling
You're
like
in that heightened state.
that
Yeah,
bubble's
exactly.
been burst.
You're ready to give back.
So it's
You have to
Yeah.
wait and bide your time.
Yeah, till you're in the van on
did
the
you
way
learn that
home.
the hard way, or?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a very blunt person.
Yeah, Harry's
So,
massively blunt.
No.
If
yeah.
anyone's ever been offended by us as a group, as a pair, it'll probably be by Harry.
Oh, 100%.
If we're honest.
I love you.
Yeah, so do
Sam
I.
says the same about me. Does it all the time.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
But you need
So
that.
I think the takeaway, definitely great partner. Tons
Yeah.
of experience, having that confidence to know you can slip into any situation and make it work because you've got that great background. The academic musical side is there. You're tuned in. You know the script. Alongside your amazing partner who works. So I'm just trying to think how that would benefit some of the viewers. Is get some help? Would you say with the other side of it?
If you're on your own doing it, I think the support network's important. So if it's not your partner and they work in a different job, seek out other people that are doing the same thing. And you can, like, for me as a videographer, I'm at home editing all the time. If I'm feeling a bit like dejected, lonely, or even if I'm just, because it is like it's a solo job for me. But even if I'm just like stuck, I can't be bothered. Like, I could ring up a mate, a videographer, and be like, "Shall we meet at Starbucks and we'll
let's do
edit
that."
together?" You find your own support network, maybe.
Yeah.
You can never give more to other people than you can give to yourself. Like, you need to recharge your batteries, and you need to have that sort of, like, I don't know, like, energy that you can then impart to other people. And if that means going and working with somebody else at Starbucks, even if you're just both doing exactly the same thing, but you're just with somebody else, and that community energy is really important.
Whenever I'm feeling unmotivated, I like talking to Howard, because he normally
Energize the
brings
bunny
me-
over there.
Yeah.
Literally. What are you
can
doing,
just plug
Howard?
into
Well,
him.
15 things at the moment. But let me tell you that. Yeah.
And
It's
I
literally my
leave
life.
super inspired, like, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start a podcast."
Let's see how that goes.
Come on. I don't want to sit still
That's
for
probably
too
a
long.
bad idea.
Come on.
Well, I was
Keep the train moving.
going to ask next about how you balance, like, the creative side versus the business side. You kind of touched on, but
Yeah.
I like this route of, like, just all that, but also balancing both
Yeah.
of those things with like your personal life, because obviously this is something that you do together, and you touched on before about like, you know, you miss out on family occasions and stuff.
Yeah.
How do you balance, because you're so busy, how do you balance your life with everything else?
I think, we don't. I don't
You
think
don't,
we
you're
do.
all in, aren't you?
Yeah.
You have to be like that sometimes. The ultra successful people are, aren't they?
We bring people along with us.
Yeah.
So we've always been. So we do our Ellie Sax and Friends events, and when we do those at the Peace Hall and things like that, we have our. I think that really came from lockdown, because obviously that happened, and you reached out to a lot more people. But the people we were working with during that, we made a very conscious decision that after lockdown we were all going to go and do this together, because we've supported each other through this.
Yeah.
And even though we're super busy, we will try and do things with people whenever we can. So, like if we're we're going to go down to Monaco for the Formula One, so we're going to do that as content. We're working out there. We're going to drive some of the cars down, do all that. But then I will reach out to people and say, look, this isn't on our bill, and we want to bring someone along to help with content, do some selfies, that type of thing. And you reach out to your network of people, and then I think our friends and people we know appreciate that from us, because they'll be like, well, we might not have heard from them for a month or so, or they haven't come round to see us. But then when we do reach out, we're like, can we give you a really cool experience while we go and do it together? So you try and add value in different ways.
Very large, like, percentage.
Is it a paid gig? Because I might be interested.
I'll learn the sax.
I asked
Howard and
first.
Adam are like, they didn't ask us to come do this.
Like you mentioned lockdown, we did. I really enjoyed the sets and filming in lockdown,
That's right, I
because
remember.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just getting out of the house, but it was just so nice to see you in real life.
Yeah. And then
At that time.
we did Ocean Beach, didn't we? Sorry, in Ibiza, and you came and filmed
Jade.
it. Brought Jade. I brought my
Filmed
sister.
it all on the iPhone.
So it makes it more of a friends thing as well,
it's
and
great.
makes it more fun. But I struggle a bit more with it, I think, than you do, don't I? Because I've got a big family. And my family aren't self-employed, so they are all in standard kind of employment, which is less flexible. And I don't see them as much as I'd like to. They see each other a lot more in collective than I see them, because I can't join them for most of their meetups because they're at weekends, because they all work normal jobs.
Yeah.
So that's a real challenge. I have to try and slip in as much as I can so that I don't miss
Well, you'll
out.
drive, we've had weekends where Ellie's family have arranged to meet up, and we will have been gigging, let's say, in Bristol, and they've decided they've arranged their meetup to be in miles away, and Ellie will go and do the gig, and then drive up to them, stay over, maybe spend 7 or 8 hours, and then drive back down to me to do another gig.
Yeah.
And that's why you end up just making those allowances for yourself. I think never expect somebody else to do that for you.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the biggest thing to say. No one else is going to change themselves to cater for your
Because in a
lifestyle,
way-
but you can change your lifestyle, or not change your lifestyle, but you can factor in things to your lifestyle that you're happy to do.
Because fundamentally, we've chosen this lifestyle, which is very different to most people's lifestyles, and it's kind of, in terms of family life, it's kind of selfish, because I'm doing what I love, and I'm picking to work when I could be hanging out with you, because I love my job, but also because I've got that drive to be constantly doing. So it's my decision to do it. So then I'm like, well, I'll make the extra effort to do stuff with you, because my, thing. But I don't balance well.
Okay, Ellie, so the question is...
Okay.
And Harry.
Ellie, and Harry, because we know you're a team, guys.
Hello.
If you were starting from scratch with all the skills that you've got, what would you do? What is the first thing you'd do to get work in the wedding industry?
No money. You wake up tomorrow, no money in the bank, no business, no bookings, nothing. But you've got all your skills.
Yeah. Okay.
What would you do?
Create loads of content. That would be my first thing, to sell it. So the only way you can sell yourself is to have the content to prove that you can do it. So I would get a phone and...
I was going to be really finicky and be like, how are you doing that? You've no budget for cameras.
Already on it, mate.
If you haven't got a phone, really,
Exactly.
You've done no weddings, so there's no wedding content. But
I'd literally have a phone, and I'd just be getting
little bits of saxophone content wherever to show people that I could play the saxophone.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably, if I had nothing, I'd probably sign up to a couple of different agencies online, like entertainment agencies, to start pushing it out.
For specific weddings.
No, if I was completely starting out, I would be going for anything I could get.
Okay.
Taking
Super
any
wide,
work
yeah.
I could get.
Yeah.
I mean, we still do, I shouldn't say this really, but we do. We still do some work for free or less than our fee because we want that work and because we know it'll lead to further work. And you should never entirely work off exposure.
On what occasions would that be acceptable?
I can give you an example of that because I did it today. So, Monaco Grand Prix, we're down there already. I was chatting to a person who said, we put on a party on this yacht on the Friday night. And it's 60 people on this yacht and we're looking for entertainment. And I was like, we're already down there. So he puts this event on at loads of the different things around the world that are like that. I was like, mate, we're already down there. We'll come and jump on and do an hour for you. And then if you like it, you'll pay us our usual fee for next time. And he was like, would you do that? And I was like, yeah, 100%. And that is always far better. I think it's you, Howard, that told me this. It's far better to go in and say, I'll do this one for free. This is my usual fee. Don't go in and say, I'll knock like 400, 500 quid off and we'll do this.
Yeah.
Do it for free.
Nice.
If you think you're going to get something back from it,
But they see the
this
quality
is your usual
then.
fee.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Then they can see the
And if they
value.
want to book you again, they're going to expect the discounted price you gave them then.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Free gigs at
This
the
is
start.
my worth, but I'll do it for
Definitely.
free for you. But I think we've sort of deviated from the question a little bit. I
Well,
think
no,
No, because
starting
it's
out,
really
work for
good.
free. And a lot of people turn their nose up about it, but
Yeah.
it's a surefire way
it's a tricky line. You have to think that the thing you're going to do, you have to make your own decision if that's worth it for you. Don't be bullied into working for free. Like, you've got to think, you have to offer that to them. Don't let someone say, I haven't got a budget for this. Like, if they come to you and say, we'd like to book you for this, you then make that conscious decision to say, I'm going to do this for free. Don't be
If you don't think you're going to get, because what people try and sell it on is exposure. If you don't think you're going to get the exposure you then would benefit from, if they're telling you you're getting exposure but you don't feel you are,
Yeah, well, that's
Then
what
don't-
you're saying.
Your own
Take control
value.
of it rather
Yeah.
than letting them
Absolutely.
go.
Yeah.
If they're saying to you, do it for exposure, it'll work,
yeah,
probably won't.
yeah.
I think if I was starting from scratch, like scratch, what have you got? If I was looking at you and saying, right, what you've got a personality, you can play the saxophone. So we're going to do, even if it's TikToks or Instagram, we're going to lean into that, and we're going to go and do loads of little short videos of something that's playing a saxophone tune somewhere, or going and doing something short and viral that is going to get noticed. Because you mentioned that you haven't got any wedding gigs, so how are you proving you can do weddings? Well, the only way to do that is to go viral enough, or to have something that's of interest enough, even if it's like a busker, that type of scenario. That's where you're at.
Or even approach some wedding venues and
Can I film
go
a video
in
in
the
here?
daytime, go film a video there.
Have you got a wedding set up for later this week? Can I jump in? Can I film a video?
and I'll share it on your socials. I'll
Yeah.
send it to you so that you've got footage of your venue.
Yeah.
Scratch someone else's back so they can scratch yours. That's very much, I think, beneficial in the wedding industry as well, because then you end up working with nice people. You find the people who you like and who then develop to be your friends. And you all help each other out. It makes for a far nicer.
But if you're going to do that, go to the venues that
you want to work
that are
at.
good. You
Yeah.
know, like you say.
Yeah.
So that
Make it worth
that
your
is
while.
To get a wedding gig, not going. Where wedding gigs held at wedding venues. Well, let's go to the wedding venues.
Yeah.
Here's a little bit of content, but go to
Yeah.
wedding venues. Ask about their wedding fairs. If you got any open days,
Yeah.
can I do anything for you? Again, free gigs for doing
like-
favours for people.
The hotel on the prom in Blackpool versus
You need to know your market,
The
you need to know
nice
where you want to be.
estate
Yeah.
in Ribble Valley. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
It's choose the right venues.
Yeah.
Choose the right venues and work out what if money's off the table completely. Work out you as a person, what you've got that's worth something that venue would benefit from in terms of letting you in to come and film a video, and then work that on a joint venture almost.
Yeah.
So you're then thinking, well, the venue hasn't got content of this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to film that content of this for them, and then I'm going to give it to them. They don't have to post me in it, but they probably will do. They'll probably tag you in it because that's the nice thing to do.
I think that's an easy thing to do as a filmmaker because
Yeah.
venues always need content.
Well, videographers and photographers are laughing in that sense because we can just do that.
I remember I used to do a lot of like gigs for hotels where they have their staff night or something, and that was kind of a favour.
Yeah.
You know, so it's how to shoehorn your particular niche into a venue
Yeah.
by helping them out with
Yeah,
it.
I mean, if you're a cake provider, a florist, or anything, it's the same
Absolutely.
advice, isn't it?
Also-
It's just finding how your service
Yeah, if you're a florist, right, Easter's coming up. Can I do you a floral Easter display that's going to go in the reception of your wedding venue?
Have
And
it
can I
for
take
free.
some pictures? You can have it for free.
Yeah.
But if you've got brides and grooms who like that, would you mind just mentioning me to them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
stuff like that.
it hasn't really cost you anything to do it. You've made a relationship.
Yeah.
And then someone might see that and tag you in it.
And also, that's a relationship that's then going to continue on. You know, if you're marketing to couples, each couple you market to has got one event, which is great. You know, you should definitely still market to couples when you get the opportunity to. But if you're going to wedding venues may hold 50 weddings a year, so you could have a good pool of work if you work well with them. I'd say as well, though, don't get offended or be rude if they say no, because quite often they will say no because they're too busy or they don't know you. But you have to, especially it's a big industry, but it's also small in the fact that, you know, if you do offend, if you're rude,
They might have their people and they don't want to tread on their toes.
Yeah.
But then
as soon as you're rude, it gets out.
Yeah.
you could just ask that question. You could just say, if they're like, oh no, sorry, we don't do that, you could just be like, is it because I'm not very good? Is it because you've already got a supplier? Because then if they say, oh yeah, we've already got this supplier, you could even then reach out to that supplier and say, look, I'm starting out. This venue obviously love you because they always use you. Is there anything that I can do just to gain a bit of experience and help you out with that? You're not being too big for your boots too early doors, and that's the biggest thing that gets everybody's back up. Especially we see it with people who've come out of music college. They've got a degree in whatever field they want to go into, and they're immediately like, you should book me for this event because I've just come out of music college. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, I know you can play, which is fine, but if I put you in front of 200 people, can you then entertain?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just trying to go about it the right way,
But
isn't it?
most people in the industry are really nice and really friendly and really helpful.
Because they always want to help you as well. If you've been successful at something, you feel obliged sometimes to pass that knowledge on. And people are so scared about reaching out to other suppliers about things because I'm their competition. No, people
really nice.
people do want to help you out.
Yeah.
But some people are just too scared to ask.
Yeah.
Always ask, and if you don't get a reply, just don't be a dick about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
You've got
That's
to.
true.
Chances
You're
are you're going to get a lot of no's, but you've got to. Ask
You've
enough
got to
times.
cast your net wide
You've got to ask
if
enough
you're starting
times.
out because you don't know what your niche
3 or
is.
4 messages
Yeah.
is not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
No.
They might all come back no's, and then it's like, oh,
But then focus down. Literally.
You've got to go like 50.
Yeah.
Cast your net
100%.
really wide, see what is sticking, and then narrow it in on those things. Look at it and think, right, well, these people replied. What have they got in common that makes them think I'm a good fit for them? And then you can almost generate your own niche based on looking at what replies you're getting. So it's not a wasted. It's basically what do they call it? Like consumer marketing. You're basically finding out what works and then narrowing down to that. But then you've got to be humble to do that as well, because you can't be like, well, I do this particular brand of wedding photography, which is all in sepia, and we're going to do this. Why does nobody want it? Well, nobody wants it because we don't live in the 1920s. But then you've got to be humble enough to be like, actually, maybe that's not the right thing, but I can shoehorn that into what I do, and maybe we could do a little bit of that style of photography for couples that do want it, but then give them enough. The same with DJing.
And also because trends are constantly changing in the wedding industry, you've got to have a level of humble to like adapt to the trends, because otherwise you get left behind, don't you?
I feel we're getting to a level where I'm getting quite brutal now, so I'm just going to
Yeah, you settle down.
I love it. This is all good content, honestly. We're going to change the name of the podcast here, Adam.
Brutal Harry.
That's another soundbite. We're not in the 1920s.
We're not in the 1920s. Nobody wants sepia. Okay.
I was going to ask, what advice would you give to someone starting out? That was kind of like
Exactly what I just said.
But
You've answered it.
does that differ from anything you've just said?
I know. I think one add on to it is just to stay really open minded and to try and stay positive. It's really hard, especially when you're starting out. It's hard to, it takes quite a long time. I think people sometimes expect it to happen quite quickly, but obviously if you're only starting out, you might not get any weddings for this year because people do book quite far in advance quite often, and it's a tricky thing. But you can, you really have to have a good persistence about you. Try and stay positive and try and adapt and just be positive and happy to be there and
have a cut-off time as well. If you think like, if you're working into the evenings and you're spending all your time on everything, don't make sure again you're not completely burning yourself out. If you're doing it by yourself, then think, right, I've got to 6 o'clock, I've got to 7 o'clock, I'm going to stop doing that now, I'm going to put something on Netflix, I'm going to have some food, and that's my day done. Treat it like a job as well. Make sure you have those boundaries. But again, like you would if you were employed, there might be times when someone says, I really need you to work late, or I really need you to do this, and just be prepared to put those shifts in as well.
Yeah. I took a lot from you, and I've worked, especially when I was young and single and living at my mum's house, and I worked all hours. Which I found really easy to do because I didn't have any commitments and that suited my lifestyle. But then, so it's something I've had to teach myself is if you're going to give advice about this, you just got to be mindful of not everyone is going to be able to do the kind of hours that you did. So you can't just go, I just work all the hours because it's not realistic, and it's someone could listen to that and go, I'm going to have to, and that's obviously what it takes, and burn themselves out. So you've got to be mindful that if you just be self-aware of what you can manage, what can you do, what can you,
I think you need a big enough why, don't you? Because when you're working full time all the hours, but if you've got a big enough why, you want to actually do something. You'll put the effort in, you'll do it because you know what the end goal is. Like when I was working full time, running a business with the family, and then I was singing on the weekends, I was practicing in my back room every night, and just.
If you've got the motivation and the determination, you want to do it, then great. But
I knew what the outcome would be if I put all that work in.
But also, you can be structured about it. You can if you plan your time so that you are getting the biggest benefit out of your time, because you're putting basically your own time in to try and then turn it into a business. So if you're like I said, if I was starting out now, I'd make loads of content. Plan your content before you go to make your content. It makes it less stressful. It makes it go quicker. Don't slog out to make it absolutely perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to show you and your abilities and what you're doing. So I think it's be intelligent with your time and be kind of selective, but not too harsh on yourself, because then you can just dig yourself into a hole, can't you?
I think telling people is a big one as well. And we're so lucky with social media, aren't we? Really. Yeah. Because as soon as you're out, I'm now a sax player, I've got all this skill, I want to get weddings. Tell everyone. I'm wanting to do weddings. Put on social media. I'm ready. Anybody? Do you know anybody who's getting married? You just.
Utilise your friend network as well.
Exactly. Yeah, tell your friends. Definitely.
Yeah. Or if your friends are having a party, if you're a DJ or a musician, if your friends are having a party,
low hanging fruit.
Yeah, exactly. Get those bits and use it. Yeah. Perfect.
Right, we've got one more question. I like this question. This is good. Well, I asked the last question, so you asked the
This is something that I think we're going to ask every guest, because I don't know how beneficial it is, but it's something I'm really interested in.
No, we're going to ask every guest on the podcast
because I think this is really interesting. If you could, within the wedding industry, if you could swap the service that you do with any other type of wedding industry person, what would you do? Like both of you individually. If you
had a real funny time in the van.
If you weren't sax and DJ, if you were providing a different wedding service, what would it be?
So you personally?
That is so hard. I would. Do I have to actually have any reasonable skills at it, or is it like I could fully develop my skills?
What else would you want to be in the wedding industry?
I'd love to make wedding dresses, like design and make wedding dresses, which would just be. It's absurd because I can't sew or design.
So what makes you want to do that?
I just love wedding dresses. And I love I always like being quite creative. I like drawing, don't I, Harry? So I feel like I could design some pretty fabulous stuff. But I'm going to try and make some of my own outfits this year, so we'll see if it manages to translate. It probably won't, and then
that would be down the pan. But yeah, also I feel like it's really hard because I basically work very few hours, don't I? Which is really nice.
So if you were that, do you think you'd be successful at it?
Quick fire, yes or no?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm talking like not with my level of skills now. If I'd have been able to build it
skills,
because I'm very, very driven, and I don't think I'd take not being successful as an option. I think I'd just keep on ploughing, throwing these dresses in people's faces until.
That wouldn't be like couple, or you wouldn't be like dealing with couples, would you? Making the dresses,
oh no, I'd do
shops
like
and stuff.
Well, maybe.
Or would you have a bridal shop?
I think I'd have like a mixture.
Or are we going too deep with this?
I've thought about it quite a lot before. I think I'd do bespoke wedding dresses for people, for like
so you
high,
could still
high-end,
be,
but also make a line.
Would you still want to have the relationships with couples?
I think so.
Because I feel like that'd be part of your success. Because
I wouldn't want to be like some massive kind of manufacturer. I'd like it to be like.
You don't want to be fruit of the loom for the wedding dress industry. You want to be mature.
Fruit of the loom.
I love fruit of the loom.
Nothing wrong with fruit of the loom.
Quality t-shirts, them. Quality.
If you like seeing your nipples through them,
What would you do?
What would you do?
I would do.
Sax player.
There you're saying if something you would do, I'm already a sax player. I would love to do like wedding cars. I'd love to like do chauffeuring.
I don't know why I wouldn't have thought of that anyway. I probably could have answered your question.
Some sort of like, like driving like bride and her father to the church, like picking them up, driving them back to the venue, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I'd really like to do that because it would. I love cars, and also, I think it's a really nerve-wracking time of the day for people because they're nervous about it, but also. You can still have a chat with people about it, so you can still be sort of a little bit of a part of their day. But yeah, you can help to sort of put them at ease as well.
Isn't it? Because that's the nervous point
100%,
on the way,
yeah.
and if you can be that person that's calmed her down, she'll remember that.
Yeah.
Harry's like, unless you're flying to the church at like 70 miles an hour and a 30 to get there on time. You know?
Or if they're late, you
70
can,
miles an hour.
she's
and a
like,
70.
I can get you there on time. Jump in the
Squeeze
AMG.
into the back
You'll be
of
fine.
the McLaren. Go on, in you go.
Yeah. Well, there was only 2 seats in the McLaren, so the father of the bride would have to be in the trailer.
Cool, nice. Well, thanks for having us, guys. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
The first ever one.
It's been brilliant.
If it tanks,
If we
don't
had
blame
to-
us.
I mean, this might be the only ever episode. No, if we had to have someone that we could have on first, I'm very happy that it was you guys.
Thank you.
Because
guys.
obviously
Thanks for
you've got
asking
so
us.
much to share with your super success and advice, but we also love you, so it's
Absolutely.
great.
Oh,
to-
we love you.
Before we wrap up, if people want to find out about you and find out more, where do they need to go?
I'd head over to our Instagram. It's probably where we're most active.
Ellie Sax Instagram.
Ellie Sax Instagram.
At Ellie.Sax.
Ellie.Sax.
Yeah.
At Laserboy Wonder.
Don't bother following at Laserboy Wonder unless
Follow
you're
at
interested in
Laserboy
like
Memes.
memes, dogs, and the underneath of cars that don't work. That's what you get from mine.
What have you got coming up this year? Anything like any cool?
Yeah, we've got some.
Exciting.
Your
pretty
coolest
big
gig
ones.
you've got coming up this year?
We're supporting the Black Eyed Peas this year.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool. Quite cool.
That's
Got
pretty
the-
cool.
We've got Peace Hall. We've
Well,
got
there's the
bar.
Amber Lounge F1
Amber Lounge
after
for
parties.
Formula One.
Is the tickets to the Peace Hall gone up?
Yes.
They've
they're
got-
Have
right.
they sold out already?
They are not quite
We
sold
haven't
out.
really-
We've got 6,000 tickets to sell this year.
Yeah, I want to
but
come.
we're about just over 50% now, and they've been out 3 days.
So if people want to come to that, they'll find you on Instagram. And they can
Yeah,
find details
everything
about
we've
coming
got
to
on
see your performance at Priest Hall.
Peace
Peace
Hall.
Hall.
Peace Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. And what date is that on?
11th
The
of August.
11th of August.
11th of
In,
August, Peace Hall.
It's
Halifax.
That is going to
isn't
be
it?
one hell of a party.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going
Black
to
Eyed
be
Peas one is down in London at Greenwich.
Greenwich.
At the mill.
That's a high bar. Like, what's the coolest gig you got this year? Oh, we're supporting the Black
Supporting
Eyed
Black Eyed
Peas.
Peas.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, woo.
I know, brilliant that. Only came in the other week as well. I was like, what a win.
Yeah.
I've got some nice weddings coming up this year, but I'm not supporting the Black Eyed Peas.
What are you most excited for wedding wise this year? Have you got any
Wedding wise?
cool?
Not wedding wise.
No,
In
just-
general, in your
yeah,
life, what are you
yeah.
excited for?
Our lives aren't as exciting.
We're going to Downton Abbey in a couple of weeks, aren't we?
Nice.
Yeah, we are.
So
Yeah,
it's actually
Really?
it's my mum's birthday present from us.
yeah, forgot about that.
Oh,
So we're all going down
fab.
there for a few days, and the boys are going to come as well.
Which we are
So
massive
that's a
down
good
to.
thing.
This is.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know.
Lots
Are you
of
gonna dress
lots
up?
of things. I'm always excited about what's coming up, but sometimes we're spontaneous. We'll just go away and do something.
Yeah.
The reason we're sat here today is purely down to Downton Abbey, because me and Howard were massive fanboys, and then we just got chatting, and he was like, "Fancy coming to a wedding?" Like, filming me and learning cameras, and we just, it all started from there. Downton Abbey.
Nice. Wow. Downton Abbey.
So every Sunday night, Adam used to come to our house. My mum used to come to our house, and we went to Downton Abbey. I know it sounds bizarre, but telling
it doesn't sound bizarre. It sounds the most.
And then when Downton Abbey finished,
thing.
it then became Mr. Selfridge night, didn't it? Do you remember?
Gosh,
and it was one of those nights when Adam was, I think,
Sunday
was at
night
college.
period drama forms the basis of everything I've done since.
You tell me a person in the UK that hasn't been, in their formative years, watched BBC period dramas. It might make no sense to international viewers.
More
but
of
if
an
you grew up
ITV fan.
If you, we'll end there.
I think we can end there.
Yeah.
No,
And we carry on chatting about this off camera.
Yeah. If
Are
you
we going
enjoyed,
to finish with if you've got a question for the next guest? Go on then. We're not even sure who it's going to be yet.
Well, no, that's part of the fun, don't
Because that's part of the fun. Have you got?
We've not copyrighted this idea.
Have you got a question for our next podcast guest?
what's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you at a wedding in front of people?
And how did you recover from
How
it?
did you recover from it? Did
There's
you
the
recover?
lesson.
Or are you still there?
So thanks so much for listening. We really hope that you found this episode insightful, inspirational, and if you did enjoy that, then please consider subscribing to us wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. We're a Think Wedding Business.
We're also on YouTube and Instagram, so if you want to watch us, you can go over to YouTube and find us at Think Wedding Business, and the same over on Instagram to keep up with all of our future episodes.
We'd really love you to subscribe and join us on this journey. And if you do like this content, please consider giving us a 5-star review. It just helps us get seen and helps spread the word.
So thanks again for listening,
Wings
and we'll see you
out.
next time.
Bye-bye.